All right, let's jump all into the last minute grammar preparation. If you're planning to take the SAT around the corner, I'm going to keep this as short as possible because there's a lot of different ding dong rules of grammar, but they're so easy. But I need to compress this information. So if you're taking the test tomorrow, day after tomorrow, and maybe in 5 days, I'm talking about last minute preparation. I'm going to give you the skinny and all this so that you can own the test better. By the way, side note, if you master the grammar area of the SATs or ACTs, that is the best way to boost your score overall for both tests, even a CLT if you wanted to. All right, what kind of grammar is being tested? It's the same type of grammar that you learn in fifth grade grammar classes. Reading comprehension is involved because students always ask me, do I have to read everything that's given to me? Can I just read the underlined portion and just do it? No, because sometimes the test makers would be tricky and they'll put some clues in a previous sentence or a following sentence to help you pick the best answer. But if you don't read the previous to the next sentence, then you get owned. And I don't want you guys getting owned during the test. Now, the big overview of the SAT is the following. Remember, always, 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 you can hear me repeat stuff, but that's just the way it is. That's how you learn better. Always, when you take any SATs, the reading section of the exam follows a certain order. It begins with sentence completions. It will go to reading comprehension, but we're skipping all those questions because we want to go next. Step two, we want to go after the grammar questions. Right after the grammar questions, we want to take care of our bullet questions. Then we can go back to any of the reading comprehension questions that we had skipped and flagged, right? Anytime we're dealing with the SATs, we're going to change the order of the test questions that's being shown to us so that we can manipulate the reading section of the exam because it's all about timing in a test. And a lot of students, what they think is that they need to get faster and rush through the reading section. No, you don't have to rush through the reading section. What you need to do is manage your time better in the reading section by spending 20 to 30 seconds per question in sentence completions, grammar, and bullets. If you do that, you're going to have up to 2 minutes per question for reading comprehension, and that is big. All right, these are the different grammar rules that are being tested in the exam. We're going to cover I will tell you the most important ones is going to be these right here, the four of these. Now, don't worry about the days and all that good stuff. This is just recommended days that I give to my in-person classes, my private classes, for my students to follow. Typically, the best time to get ready for the test is going to be over the summer. But since we're doing this at the last minute with just a few days, maybe 5 days, or maybe a day left to take the test, then let's set our expectations. If we're doing this at the last minute, we're not expecting to get a home run or a perfect score. We want to do decently well so that we can navigate our way through the test. Let's say it's tomorrow. So tomorrow, I don't feel truly uncomfortable. At least I got a strategy and a plan to execute while I take the test so I can come out of that test knowing exactly what I need to do to beat the next exam. The next area that's going to be important, or the next few areas, are going to be these guys: periods, semicolons, colons, and hyphens. Now, if you know those 8 rules, ooh-wee, you are dangerous. Here's another. Here's another right here. These four, I'd say, would be the next group. So let's call it Group A, Group B, Group C, and the last group right here is going to be all these guys because these are fewer of the questions that are asked during a test. However, that's a lie. Transition words is asked big time, but they're pretty easy. So I left it like in the last part of the group. Anyhow, this is what we're looking at for grammar, and it looks like it's a ton of stuff and it's kind of scary, but it ain't, yo. Part of what's going to help you are going to be a video that I created for comma rules. This is a great document. So if you're able to screenshot it, print it out later on, and carry it around in your back pocket and say, let's make some friends with these rules, that'd be great. Or you could just watch the video, but have this handy dandy list next to you as you go through the video. Next, this is a little quiz that I created for students, especially for those students who are at risk of not passing the reading section of the, what do you call it, the ELA for high school graduation, and they need help. I created this little doc that goes over the comma rules, and it's just a matching quiz. What's really cool is that this last sentence, Group D sentence, it shows all of the comma rules smashed into one complete sentence, all the comma rules. So that's a good sentence to review. I won't break it down because I want to get to actual SAT test questions that can help you for the next test that's right around the corner. There we go. Let's take a look at this one. Now, the first rule, oh, by the way, the list that I'd shown you before about all the rules, this guy, this entire list, we're following this order. What is it? 19 days. So 19 different rules we're going to be covering in these particular questions that I'm showing to you. So let's take a look at the first one. CR means comma rules, introductory clause. Now, during a test, this is going to be a cheat that I guess is a cheat code. This is your cheat code. Always, always, when your grammar section of the exam, Take a look at the answer choices. I'm looking for any answers that show me a semicolon, a period, or a fanboy. I'm sorry. Yeah, a semicolon, period, or a fanboy. So I see any answers that give me a semicolon or a period or a fanboy like comma and, comma for, comma but. You guys get it. Fanboys. You guys remember fanboys? If you don't remember, just go to the video that talks about the comma rules. If I see those, I'm testing those answers first. Why? Because semicolons 95% of the time is going to separate two complete sentences. 100% of the time, the period separates two complete sentences. So these are easy answer choices to either pick as the best answer or you're going to instantly get rid of them because they break rules of period semicolons. And that's including the fanboys. So let's read it with the word the. The canal reduced transport time to 9 days and cut costs to $6 per ton. Yeah, that's a complete sentence. So far on this side, I always check the second side, the second part of the period or the semicolon of the fanboy. So I do have a complete sentence. Let's test what comes before leading up to Erie. So I'm going to stick that Erie in there. Oh, here it goes. The sentence reads, by linking the Hudson River to Lake Erie, is that a complete sentence? That is an incomplete sentence. So answer choice A is out. But since I tested it, what did I hear? By linking the Hudson River, Lake Erie, that's an introductory clause. So C is the best answer. It can't be D because this is a colon. What do colons do? Colons tell you, A, we're going to give you additional information of what came before the colon. For example, my mama is ugly, period. All right, you got a complete sentence. My mama is ugly. But now you want to know how ugly she is? I can put a colon and tell you, my mama is ugly, colon, buck teeth and a wooden eye, period. You guys get it? But it did not do that in this question because we had an incomplete sentence coming before the comma, which is an introductory clause. Answer choice B is wrong because it opens with a parenthesis, but there's no parenthesis later on in the sentence. So B is out. So the best answer has to be C. All right, let's go to the tippity top of the right hand side of the page. Oh, if you guys don't have this document, but you want access to the document, just send me a text 786 877 7231, and I'll lead you into where you can find it and have fun with this following along the video. All right, this is Comma Rules Fanboys. Again, whenever I'm in the grammar section exam, I'm going to cheat. I'm looking for periods, semicolons, or a potential fanboy. Let's take a look at how this one is working. Let's see if there's a complete sentence after the word and. Research suggests, stop right there. That's a subject and verb right there. But if you don't feel comfortable doing it that way, read the rest of it. Research suggests that it has important implications for customer loyalty and retention. That is a complete sentence. That's a check. Now let's check what came before it uh, up until paradox. This idea is known. I could stop right there. That's a complete sentence. The idea is known, complete sentence, as the service recovery paradox. So therefore, this is the best answer. I can kill the other answers. They're not going to work. See how that works? Ain't that cool? All right, let's go to the next type of comma rule. We have comma rule, unnecessary information at the end of the sentence. Now, these descriptors that I put on top of the questions, they're not given to you during the exam. I wish they did. But you know what? ACT has now given you descriptors in their questions, but we'll talk about that in a whole different segment about the ACT. But right now, comma rules, unnecessary information to end the sentence. I take a look at my answer choices. What am I going after? Again, I'm cheating. I see that period. I'm testing this sucker out. Is there a complete sentence after the period? But whoa, check this out. I see a semicolon. 95% of the time, semicolons are going to be separating two complete sentences. Is it possible that I can have A and C equally equal as a correct answer? Did I say equally equal? Equally correct? No, it can't work. But let's see. Let's test it out. Let me put among. Among them, Nigerian American essayist and novelist Teju Cole, comma, who has written that the Transformers works contain luminous simplicity. There's no verb. Among them, no, let's go. Among them, essayists and novelists who has written the works. That's an incomplete sentence. So therefore, A is out and C is dead in the water too. So it's got to be A between B and D. What can it be? Now notice I got an answer to the comma and I've got no comma. So let's begin at the beginning of the sentence and see what's going on. Ooh, no punctuation for all that business. There's got to be something up. More than likely that comma is going to be the answer. I'll tell you what, 8 times out of 10, that comma will be the answer. But we have to check it. We can't just guess. The haiku poems of Thomas which present nature and dream influenced images in crisp, spare language, have earned the Swedish poet praise from the leading contemporary writers, right? Let's try a comma. Among them, Nigerian American essayist and novelist Teju Cole. Stop right there. I'm not going to read the rest. There is a comma that was given to us for the answer choice for D. I'm testing that comma out. Up until the comma, I have a complete sentence. I could have put a juicy period right there. But instead, the author decided to, in this case, put additional information after that comma about what? Anything that comes after a comma. Among them, let me get that among them, Nigerian essayist novelist Teja Cole. What came immediately before the comma? Leading contemporary writers. So they gave you an example of a leading contemporary writer that comes after the comma, but what came before the comma? The leading contemporary writers. What comes after? Among the essayist and novelist Teju Cole. So therefore, D is the best answer. Now, this is a question number 27. It's considered hard. So when you're deep in the 20s, during the reading section of the exam. It could be 25, 24, 26, 27. It's going to get a little tricky. They like to use a lot more words within their sentences. All right, let's go to question number 25. We have comma rules, unnecessary information in the middle of the sentence. Now, this is a slick question. Let's dig into it. Let's take a look at our answer choices. Any periods? Nope. Any semicolons? No. Any fanboys? No. Let's go into the sentence. American abstract artist Richard, and I think they're using Sarah. There's a comma after two Sarahs for B and C, but there's no comma. They put Sarah. American abstract artist Richard Serra blanks his installations to make passerby keenly aware of how one's movements are affected by the physical features of one's environment, comma, assembles large-scale steel plates into sculptures that dominate. Bruh, that's making no kind of sense to me, but then we could try our answers. Now, if you're going to try out answers, always test your answers from the bottom up. Got it? Always from the bottom up in any of the reading passage questions, whether sentence completions, grammar. This is when you're plugging in answers to see how they sound or how they work, right? So I just did D. American abstract artist Richard Serra, let me do it in black, intends his installations to make passerby keenly aware of how one's movements are affected by the physical features of one's environment, comma, assembles large-scale steel plates into sculptures. It makes no darn sense. I hear Sarah intends, but I'm also seeing that there is a comma saying that he also assembles. What's up? I got two verbs going on with no and connecting the two verbs. Something's up with that. That does not work. Now I'm going to test answer choice C. And more than likely, remember they give you these long sentences with a lot of words. More than likely, there's going to be a comma rule involved. Let's try C with the comma. Let me erase intends. And now I'm going to put comma, boop, intending. American abstract artist Richard Serra, intending his installations to make passerby keenly aware of how one's movements are affected by the physical features of one's environment, assembles large-scale steel plates into sculptures that dominate the outdoor spaces they occupy. Bruh, what if I went comma to comma and I got rid of all this information? Because I believe this is going to be unnecessary information in the middle of a sentence. Now check this out. Let me underline assembles with a different color. Comma to comma, red to red commas, and all that's underlined. Oops, let me erase this right here. Only comma to comma was underlined in red. What would happen if I stripped all of that out? I want you guys to notice this, right? If you were to strip all of that out, what would happen to the sentence without that information? All right, let's shave it right out there. Bang. Here, I love the magic of dealing with these devices because back in the day, bruh, this was nearly impossible. All right, here we go. Now reread the sentence. American abstract artist Richard Serra assembles large-scale steel plates into sculptures that dominate the outdoor spaces they occupy. That is the main sentence. So therefore, all that information from comma to comma is what? Additional information about whom? What came immediately before the comma? What came immediately before that comma? Who was intending to make those installations? Richard Serra. So all that information underlined in red is additional information in the middle of the sentence. C is your best answer. Why does B not work? For the same reason D does not work, because you have two verbs. Why does A not work? Because it says that Sarah is intending his installations to make passerby keenly aware, but then you have comma, assembles large scale steel. So these guys do not work. The best answer is C. Do you notice why we attack our answers from the bottom up? Because more than likely your answer is going to be near the bottom with these trickeration questions. Look, I got C, D, and C here. So always test your answers from bottom up. If you go from the top down, more than likely you're going to run into bait. All right. The next topic that was in that list of grammar rules, that was, I think it was 19 rules long. Let's take a look at the period rule. I take a look at my answers. What am I looking for? Periods, semicolons, or fanboys. I see a period here. Let's test this sucker out. Because the hole small size restricts light to a single ray, all light passing through the hole can only arrive at a single destination. That's a complete sentence right there. I don't even have to finish. So this works here. Let's check the back end going all the way until the word works. Array diagram reveals how this works. That is a complete sentence. So yes, I have two complete sentences broken up by a period, so I can ignore these answer choices. The best answer is B, as in bubbles. All right, bubbles. Let's go to the next question. But I want you to notice the question numbers too. We're in a high 20, so this is going to be a hard question. The previous question, the period question, was supposed to be a hard question also because most students answered it incorrectly. Let's take a look at the semicolon in this answer. Whoop. And take a look at the semicolon in this answer. Whoop. Now, I'm testing these two out because 95% of the time, there's going to be a complete sentence after the semicolon, complete sentence before the semicolon. Let's read immediately after the semicolon. The brightly colored arachnid seems to wait conspicuously in the center of his large circular web for insects to approach. That is a complete sentence. So I'm testing C, but notice we have the word rather with both of these guys. I don't care about the rather right now. I care about the semicolon rule. So I tested after the semicolon, I got a complete sentence. Let's test before the semicolon up to the word pray and say we have a complete sentence. To humans, it does not appear that the golden orb weaver spider uses camouflage to capture its prey. That is a complete sentence. So therefore, C and D do work. So that means we can get rid of A and B. Now, we can go to the word rather. Where does the rather belong? Does it belong in the first sentence underlined in green, or does it align with the sentence underlined in blue? The best answer in this case for this question is dun, 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 is D. It belongs with the second sentence that comes after the semicolon. Next question. Now, remember, I told you that 95% of the time, the semicolon is going to separate two complete sentences. What about 5% of the time? Well, the 5% of the time involves this business, parallel lists with semicolon rules. This is your 5% rule of semicolons. Now, students who are working on this at the last minute, I think you might get burnt by this question. But if you pay careful attention to this one, knowing that 95% of the time semicolons separate two complete sentences, then 5% of the time, can you please tell me what it does? All right. There's no descriptor up here during the test. So you see this question, and what are we doing? We're cheating. We're going straight to the answer choices. What are we looking for? Periods, semicolons, fanboys. I see a semicolon here, and I see a semicolon there. So I'm testing those two answers first. Now, also notice that the difference between the two is that you have a comma there and you have no comma there. But it doesn't matter. We're listening for a complete sentence. So I'm going to read a kind of marriage all the way through to the end of the sentence. A kind of, here, let me put a kind of marriage, a com. All right, a kind of marriage, a television play about the private struggles of a newlywed couple in Nigeria. Is that a complete sentence? Because I see another semicolon. Is that a complete sentence just now? A kind of marriage, comma, or a kind of marriage, no comma, kind of marriage, a television play about the not private struggles of a newlywed couple in Nigeria. There's no verb, so there's no sentence. So that means I can't use 95% rule. But if you're actively reading and you did see that extra semicolon and is followed by the word and, no, it's not a fanboy. If you see a semicolon followed by the word and, then you are certainly dealing with a parallel list structure in this sentence. Now, notice my first answer choice I had checked, it did have a comma right there. Could there be, it looks like the italicized a kind of marriage followed by a comma? Then there's going to be a pattern, a listed pattern of short phrases very similar to what we have with the comma, I'm sorry, the semicolon in the and. Notice what comes afterwards. Head above water, italicized. comma, her autobiography. Let's back it up because this is going to be involving a list. Let's back it up. The Joys of Motherhood. Also, a comma, a novel about the changing roles of women in 1950s Lagos. The next one, it begins with a kind of marriage, comma, a television play about the private struggles of a newly couple in Nigeria. That is in parallel form, so therefore B is the best answer. Actually, let me erase some of this stuff so you can see that the comma is there with the semicolon. Now, what was the hook to this, right? Let's pause for a second. Let me erase all of this. I'm gonna mention it one more time because if you can nail this during a test, nobody else in the room is going to get it except for you. Again, I'm testing what? I'm cheating. I see my semicolons. I'm assuming it's going to be the 95% rule, the separation to complete sentences. Now I'm going to test it. I'll read a kind of marriage. I'll start with the first one, a kind of marriage, comma, a kind of marriage, comma, a television play about the private struggles of the newlywed couple in Nigeria. That's not a complete sentence, but I do notice, I notice another semicolon with the word and. So that means bang, parallel list. It's not the 95%, it's going to be the 5% rule. Now I'm looking for the pattern. If I use the kind of marriage with the comma, do the other italicized words have the same thing? Head above water, comma, her autobiography, the joys of motherhood, comma, a novel about the changing roles. And then, of course, a kind of marriage, comma. So therefore, B is the best answer. Ding dong, that witch is dead. And that's a dirty question. Question number 24. Colon rules. Now, this is a slick question. I like giving you guys slick questions because it makes you sharper. Again, answer choices. What am I looking for? Period, semicolons, fanboys. I got a semicolon there. I got a semicolon there. Well, let's test if there's a complete sentence after the semicolon. Let's read it together. Rumba, samba, cha cha cha, paso doble, and jive. Is that a complete sentence? Heck no. So two answers are D, E, D, dead in the water. Can't use those answers. There's no complete sentence afterwards. See why I like checking after first? Because as soon as you get it, you don't have to check the other one. Bang, it's dead. Now, which answer can it be? I see the other answer choices. I got a comma, and a colon, comma, and a comma. Now, if it's comma, comma, that means that all this information is unnecessary. Remember, unnecessary information in the middle of the sentence. But let's back that up. Let's just test it. Could it be the colon? Let's read what we have so far. Only 5 of these dances are included in the International Ballroom Dance competitions. And then they put comma, however, right? Comma, however, then the colon for answer choice A. Rumba, samba, cha cha cha, paso doble. So whenever you're dealing with colons or dashes, everything that comes afterwards is going to be either an explanation, a definition, or examples. It could be a list. Examples about what came immediately before the dash or the colon. So therefore, in this case, A is the best answer. Boom. Doesn't that feel good to know that stuff? And that is supposed to be a slick question that most of us have answered incorrectly. Now, notice this one. This is question number 24 also. So, where do they like their colon and hyphen questions? They like it deeper to confuse students. We go to our answer choices, any semicolons, any periods, any fanboys. No, but we certainly notice we got our comma, we got our hyphen. Now, remember, hyphens, you'll learn about this in the Comma Rules worksheet. Anytime you see a hyphen in the middle of a sentence, if you open with a hyphen in the middle of a sentence, you got to close the door with the hyphen in the middle of a sentence. However, you could have a complete sentence before the hyphen, and then you can conclude it with description with a period. What else can you do that with? You can do that with the colon. So notice B and C. Is it possible to have two answers be equally correct? Sometimes you think you can kill them because they would negate one another, but you have to be careful, okay? Rules are used differently in the test, but we do know colons and dashes, whatever comes after them is going to be an explanation, definition, or a list of what came immediately before. But the other rule to hyphens, if you open with a hyphen in the middle of a sentence, you got to close with a hyphen in the middle of a sentence. Open and close. That's the same for parenthesis to parenthesis. Whatever you open with a parenthesis, whatever. No, whenever you open with a parenthesis, you close the parenthesis. Or it could be comma to comma. Why? Because they're unnecessary information in the middle of the sentence. Let's test this sucker out. Now, for this one, I'm going to read from the top. The 47 geothermal springs of Arkansas's Hot Springs National Park are sourced via a process known as natural groundwater recharge. That's a complete sentence. Now the author gave us additional information afterwards, in which rainwater percolates downward through the earth. Ho! Hyphen. In this case, the porous rocks of the hills around hot springs, right there. Hyphen to hyphen, baby. And C is your best answer. Now, if I put springs here with the hyphen, remember the comma that we did before because it had a lot of information from comma to comma? What if I did the same thing with this guy, hyphen to hyphen? I'm going to erase the hyphen here all the way to the last hyphen. So all of this would be unnecessary. Now, if it is unnecessary, will the sentence still make sense? I'll reread the sentence, which you won't have to do during a test, or you can do it to confirm. The 47 geothermal springs of Arkansas's Hot Springs National Park are sourced via a process known as a natural groundwater recharge, in which rainwater percolates downward through the earth to collect in a basin, subterranean basin. Got it? Oh, I missed the word two. I didn't write it down. It's part of the answer choice. See? Two. So if you reread the entire sentence, it makes sense. It's all one sentence. Now, what did they do? They infused it with additional information set off by two hyphens in this case. What is in this case the porous rocks of the hills around hot springs? That's what came immediately before it, downward through the earth. Where through the earth? Through the porous rocks. But you don't need that information. So 24 is C. All right, top right hand corner. Subject verb agreement. Let's take a look at what's going on here. Now, I'm going to include an extra answer choice. Enters. Now, if there was a fifth answer choice and I saw this question, I'm going to go cheat. I'm looking for periods, semicolons, and fanboys. But if I see verbs and I see enter and enters as answer choices, I can immediately get rid of these guys. Bye. Done. Then it's definitely going to be between the singular and a plural version of the verb enters. They enter and she enters. Get it? Singular and plural verb. But in this question, they didn't give us the fifth answer. So let's see how it works when we only have one, the plural version. All right, let's go into the question or the sentence. To survive when water is scarce, comma, introductory clause, embryos inside African turquoise killifish eggs blank a dormant state known as diapause. So, which one is the best answer? I think you guys can hear it. And notice this is question 20, a low 20 question, which means it's going to be very easy. So, A is the best answer. So, if I do put the word enter here, now, how would they make this a harder question? They'll mess around with the last word that comes right before the verb. Now, when you read it, it sounds good. Killifish eggs enter a dormant state. But is eggs, the killifish eggs, are the eggs the subject of the sentence? Now, I'm going to show you something slick because the harder questions will do this to you that are subject verb agreement. If I back it up, what kind of eggs? Killfish eggs, turquoise killifish eggs, African turquoise killifish eggs, and then the word inside. Inside is a preposition. You're going to learn this through the Common Rules video. If you have a prepositional phrase, you can get rid of it. It's not necessary for the sentence. Now, what is the main part of the sentence? Embryos enter a dormant state known as diapause. Again, embryos enter a dormant state known as diapause. That's the subject right there, and that's its verb. So just giving you fair warning because it's definitely going to pop up. They're going to try and trickerate you. All right, this is a question 20, which means it's pretty easy. Let's jump into it. Now, the answer choice, no period, no semicolon, no fanboys. But I see these, those, this, and some. Why they give me one word that's singular and the rest are all plural, plural, plural? Just noticing. All right, let's go into the sentence. Li Long Ming. I don't know if I said it correctly, so apologies to those who might be. I think it's Vietnamese. I don't know. Li Long Ling became the 13th Secretary General of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations in January 2013. That's a complete sentence, but the author, instead of putting period, put a comma, making blank the first time the organization would appoint a Vietnamese. Oh, it is Vietnamese leader. Period. All right. So what happened before the comma? An event. I said an event, one event. Now, if it said Lu Long Ming became the champion of the world and the tennis champion and the basketball champion and badminton champion, and not only that, the 13th Secretary General, then we'd use plural, right? But this case, it's singular, so only one event took place, and so this is the best answer. Ooh, ooh. Next question. I'm going to show you something. With the answer choices, these guys, right? All right, remember, I can't elaborate too much because this is last minute grammar studying. All 19 different types of grammar rules are posted right here, baby. All right. Now, when you deal with apostrophes, take a look at the answer choices. Of course, I'm looking for periods. Oh, they all have periods. Okay. So there's not much I can do there. That means there is a complete sentence before. But if I see apostrophes, I'm going to red dog this one. Why would I put an apostrophe right before a period? Why would I put a singular apostrophe right before the period? The first one I underlined was plural, threads, and then the second one I underlined is just threads. But if I put apostrophe, it means they own something. Can they actually own the period? Is that what they're owning? No, it's got to be a word that they're owning. So automatically, A and D are done. D-U-N. Now take a look at B and C. I have S apostrophe for answer choice B, and I have apostrophe S for answer choice C. So this is all about trying to figure out if we're dealing with singular screw or plural screws. If we go into the sentence, now we can read. See how we've been cheating through an entire grammar section? And when you cheat, you beat down the test. Let's read carefully. Inventor John Friedman created a prototype of the first flexible straw by inserting a screw. What? By inserting what? A screw into the paper straw using dental floss, binding the straw tightly around what? The screws' heads, plural or singular? Only one screw, bro. So B is out. C is the best answer. Ooh. Let's go to 23. Now, it's not a high 20. If it was 25 or higher, it's going to be dirty. 23 ain't too bad. Let's see what we got here. We see answer choices. No periods, no semicolons, no fanboys. Experience, had experience, experiences. Now, if there was an answer choice E, right? And they showed us, hold on, let me write this down. If they showed us experience, then I would certainly know it's going to be between these two, and then you can get rid of these guys automatically. But we don't have an answer choice E. We're only being shown the word experiences, so it's singular version of the verb. Well, let's diggity dog inside that sentence, yo. This one I'm going to read from the top. Food and the sensation of taste are central to Monique's novels. If I can't pronounce the name, I'm just going to sit there. Maybe I just say true. In the Book of Salt, for example, the exiled character of Bin connects to his native Saigon through the food he prepares. I could put a period right there, but the author said, no, I'm going to give you a comma, give you additional information. While let me do this in red. While, I see the word while, bitter in the mouth, comma, the character of Linda, blank, a form of synesthesia whereby the word she hears evokes taste and tongue twistedness. All right, I underlined the blue, I underlined the red because I saw the word while, and immediately when I saw that, that means what comes before the word while has to be in parallel form to what comes after the word while. So I'll underline this in green. The Book of Salt, for example, the exiled character of Bin connects to his native Saigon, while the character of Linda experiences. It has to be parallel. With the while connects, while he connects while she experiences. Do you hear that? He connects. Ben connects while Linda experiences. Parallelism, baby, all day long. Most students are going to get burned on that question, but you ain't. Now, this question number 21, it burns a lot of students when it's a tougher question, but it is the question 21. If it's 25, 26, 27, or even 28, it's going to be dirty, dirty, and kind of confusing. Now, with all the previous questions we've been looking at, have you seen any answer choices that are as long as A, B, C, and D here? All right. If you see that, that means this is a flag for you to recognize that you're probably going to be dealing with misplaced modifier. All right. The other thing, if you read this question and you read the answer choices, what from the bottom up? If you read the answer choices from the bottom up and you say to yourself, man, like 2 or 3 of these sound pretty good. I'm just not sure what it is. That is also a red flag for misplaced modifiers. What the heck are misplaced modifiers, Mr. Alberto? Let me explain to your mama. Woven from the recycled yarn and hand tufted using a carpet weaving technique passed down by the artist's Turkish grandmother, comma. All right, you got to ask yourself, right? Chop, chop, chop. Ask yourself, what was woven from recycled yarn and hand tufted using carpet weaving techniques? Could it be Alexandra was woven from recycled yarn? No. Could it be when she creates was woven from recycled yarn? No. Could it be the Argentine textile artist be woven from recycled yarn? How about, could it be the topological tapestries be woven from recycled yarn? Yes, that's your best answer. But Mr. Alberto, I thought whatever comes after comes directly related to what comes before the comma. Yes, it is. But it's the entire phrase. A lot of students, they'll make the mistake and say, oh, it's about the Turkish grandmother, so D should be the answer. No, it's wrong. You got to back that booty up and read the rest of the information. Oh, for that one student that was in class, what was her name? Amelia. This is one for you, Amelia. This is a dedication. Peace out. To the next question. Question number 23. This is going to be from my man Hoodie in class. Hoodie, do you remember me, Hoodie? All right, this question, when you read it, you take a look at the answer choices first. Ooh, I see a semicolon. Let's hit that. After the semicolon, is there a complete sentence, Hoodie? Have been influenced by the dark Gothic story celebrated American. Is that a complete sentence? Heck no. No way. Now, what do you see left over? You see that you have a comma. You see that you have, oops, a dash. Well, could it involve a dash? Let's begin from the start of the sentence. Generations of mystery and horror writers, I just leave it like that, and horror writers have been influenced by the dark Gothic stories of celebrated American author Edgar Allan Poe. Okay, so the writers have been influenced. Here, let me just write that down. Writers have been influenced. If I said Hoodie went home, period. Do I need to put a comma between Hoodie and went? No. Do I need to put a hyphen between Hoodie went home? No. So therefore the best answer is no punctuation at all. Yes, no punctuation can be an answer. But how do we work on this? We first looked at our semicolon, fanboy, or period. I saw the semicolon, tested it. There was no complete sentence afterwards. You can't start a sentence with the verb, bang, bang, bang. Then we backed that booty up by reading the entire thing and saw, oh, there's a subject. The writers have been influenced. That's it. No punctuation necessary. Next question. We read this sucker, which burns a lot of students, but it ain't too hard. Which one is the best answer? Now, you can pause the video right here and try this question yourself. Don't forget, if you're going to test answers one by one, always test from the bottom up. Go ahead, 10 seconds. Hey, welcome back. If you just unpaused, in 2008, the innovative works of Congolese sculptor and architect Boris Isaac. Man, why they gotta give us these jacked up names, yo? Just give me John or give me Hector, give me Mary, and give me Helen, Maria. Keep it simple, yo. I'm sorry, I'm distracting myself. The innovative works of Congolese sculptor and architect Boris Isaac Kingeles were featured in the City Dreams. Oh, wait a minute, yo. Isn't this kind of like what we did before? There's no punctuation between the subject and the verb, right? And it looks like I've got right here the same business going on. Isaac Kingeles. Oh, I'm sorry. The innovative works by Isaac were featured in City Dreams. Yeah, I don't need a semicolon because semicolon, there's no complete sentence beginning with were featured in City Dreams. So A is that. This is just like the previous question. But notice that they're begging whether or not you do have a comma after the name and a comma before the name. But we don't see an answer with that because there is no comma before the name. But why is it that teachers tell us whenever you give the position of somebody or a job title to somebody, you should put a comma before and after? Yes, that is true. Only if you have an article coming before the position. Like for example, the innovative works of Congolese sculptor and architect. Mm-mm. No, it wouldn't work in this one. Yeah, there's no way I could trick it. C is the best answer. No punctuation necessary because the same as last one. Hoodie went home, and this one the innovative works of Boris Isaac Kingeles were featured in City Dreams. No punctuation needed after the name with a colon or a comma. It's just like the previous question. Question number 19. You guys can try this one out, 10 seconds. Just pause the video and then try this question out. I think this is a 20 to 30-second question, but most of you would probably own it in 10 seconds. Start from the top. Go. Welcome back. In forecasting weather events, meteorologists sometimes discuss the role of atmospheric rivers. Complete sentence. What are atmospheric rivers? That's a question. Comma. Oh, check this out. Comma and. That's a fanboy. What do fanboys do? They connect two complete sentences. In this case, we're dealing with questions. If I separated them, what are atmospheric pressures? We'd have a big giant question mark there. And then afterwards, how do they affect our weather? We've got to have a big question mark also. So C is the best answer. Now you take a look at your other answer choices from the bottom up. Does D make sense? Because it has a question mark and some students might jump on it. And how they do affect our weather? No, that's not a question. And how do they affect our weather? That is a question. So C is the best answer. Dude, guys, we're almost done, bruh. Check it out. Next one. This is question 20. We briefly tapped on prepositions. We talked about prepositional phrases. Just to have some fun with this particular sentence, let me show you some prepositional phrases. We got in, right? In is a preposition. So the phrase in her two major series, memory test and autobiography, and it's an introductory clause, but we can get rid of all of that because it's a prepositional phrase. The main sentence is Painter, whatever Pindell explored themes. Oh, it looks like we're using the word of because each of these have the word of with punctuation of healing, self discovery, and memory. I could put a period right there. And I could get rid of this preposition by cutting and sewing back together pieces. Preposition of canvas and inserting facts. Oh, by cutting and sewing back together. Oh, and inserting personal artifacts. All that prepositional phrase. So, oh, now we got comma, unnecessary information at the end of the sentence. Oh, and then we've got another prepositional phrase. So I'm going to take my white out. I'm going to call it whiteout. First thing I call it whiteout. Get rid of everything in blue. Prepositional phrases. Check that out. Bye. All this and unnecessary information at the end of the sentence. So what's the main sentence? Painter, Pindell explored themes of healing, discovery, and memory, whatever. So any prepositional phrases that we have, right? Themes of healing, self-discovery, and memory never have a punctuation before or after the preposition. Now, I could get rid of this, right? Check it out. If of is a preposition, that means of healing, self discovery, and all that business can disappear as well. Check this out. Bye. Bye. Now, what is your main sentence? Very simply, your main sentence is a simple Painter, Pindell explored themes. Everything else that goes around it gives you additional information to help you get into your head what that exactly is going on in this sentence. But anyhow, the main thing is that with prepositions, there's never punctuation before or after because it's just a continuation of thought. Like, for example, if I wrote down, I ate, that's a complete sentence. You have a subject and a verb. Now, if I ate at McDonald's, right? That's a prepositional phrase to give you different additional information as to where I ate, but you never ever need a comma or any kind of punctuation before or after the preposition. All right, next question. That. Take a look at the answer choice. Do we have any period, semicolons, fanboys? No, we don't. But I will notice that we have the word that with no comma and the word that with a comma. Now, the rule is if you're going to use the word that in a sentence, it's never that with no comma. It has to be the word that with a comma. So there, one answer is dead. Now I'm going to read because more than likely you're testing that rule. Gosh, both Sona, an Indian American, and Danielle, an African American, grew up frustrated by the lack of diverse characters in books for young people. In 2011, these two writers joined forces to found Cake Literary. Comma. I could put a period right there, but the author said, "Oh, let me put a comma to give them additional information about Cake Literary." What is Cake Literary? A book packaging company that specializes in the creation and promotion of stories from diverse perspectives for children. Yes, that is the best answer. But when back that up. Back that up. Ooh. See, my brain was thinking about the word which. I apologize. This is a big error. You know what? You're never going to forget this rule now. The word that, my goodness. The word that, whenever you see the word that, there is never a comma before the word that. That's the rule. The word that has no comma before it. So therefore, if I'm going to test the two answers, I'm going to test the word that with no comma before. Oh my goodness, I just goofed on this, but I ain't rewinding and doing this video over again. B is the best answer. Again, the word that never has a comma before it, but I'm going to write the word that I was thinking of, the word which. Oh no, this is a good lesson. The word which always has a comma before it. You guys got that? Check it out. The word that and the word which, they can be used interchangeably. I'm going to put comma and which here because there's always a comma before the word which. Now let's reread the sentence. I'll underline and bliggity black this time. In 2011, these two writers joined forces to found Cake Literary, comma, a book packaging company which specializes in the creation and promotion of stories told from diverse perspectives for children and young adults. If you use the word that with no comma, or you use the word which with comma, they both work. But remember, if you get an answer choice, let's say answer choice C, D, and they show you the word which with no comma, you can immediately kill that, get rid of it. But be careful, maybe the sentence where it stops ends with a comma and then they show you the word which. That's what you have to be careful. But which always has a comma that comes before it, and that never has a comma that comes before it. All right, last two questions. Let's see what we got here. We see the word subsequently, besides, nevertheless, and thus. Now we know we're dealing with transition words. What's a transition? Well, something happened in the sentence before, something happened in the next sentence. So when you're dealing with transition words, as soon as you come across them, remember, test the sentence before. Let's do that. The more diverse and wide-ranging an animal's behaviors, comma, introductory clause, the larger and more energy demanding the animal's brain tends to be. All right, this is reading comp. You have to, when you're doing transition words, you have to understand what was the previous sentence saying. So the more diverse and wide-ranging, the larger and more energy the brain has to have, right? Next sentence, ignore the transition. Don't even look at these answer choices. Just see what is the difference between the two sentences. From an evolutionary perspective, animals that perform only basic functions should allocate fewer resources to growing and maintaining the brain tissue. All right, what's the difference between the blue and red? The blue is saying the more diverse and wide ranging, the brain has got to be larger and more energy demanding. So the opposite holds true. Basic actions are doing only little ding dong things, then there are fewer resources to growing and maintain the brain tissue. You can have a smaller brain when you do ding dong things. So now you can take the look at the answer choices. Now we have contrast. So the best answer is going to be contrast. Is the word thus contrast? No, the word thus is like therefore. That is not contrast. It goes in the same direction as the previous sentence. In this case, it didn't. It went in the opposite direction. Besides, I mean, nevertheless is contrast. Besides is contrast, and yes, subsequently, which is going in the same direction as the previous sentence. We need contrast. In this case, the best answer is nevertheless. Even though, nevertheless, that's pretty much it. Animals that perform. Oh, wait a minute. I read it. No, I read the sentence backwards. Dude, I goofed. Let me erase. Erase. Woo. Let's do that one more time. First sentence, the more diverse and wide ranging an animal's behaviors, the larger, more energy demanding an animal's brain tends to be. Next sentence, from an evolutionary perspective, animals that perform only basic actions should allocate fewer resources to growing and maintaining brain tissue. My brain was thinking, I don't know, I was thinking backwards, like they were contrast, but actually it's almost like reaffirming, like confirming. Bigger brains, more stuff to do. Smaller brains, they do little things. So therefore, it's going in the same direction. It is thus. Yep, it's not nevertheless. It's not that kind of contrast. They're pretty much agreeing what they said before. All right, pretty slick. I almost bit on that one. Got to be very careful. All right, let's go to question number 31. When designing costumes for a film, American artists, whatever, typically custom fits the garments to each actor. So my brain, I'm saying homeboy or homewoman just custom fitting everything to each actor, special details and all that stuff. Next sentence. For the film Sunshine, in which astronauts must reignite a dying sun, she designed a golden spacesuit and had a factory reproduce it in a few standard sizes. Wait, so she went from custom fitting to factory reproduction? And colon, what's the colon giving us? Another sentence that's going to be in alignment with what came in the previous sentence. Lacking a tailor made quality. All right, so the first sentence, she does everything perfectly. The second sentence, she's doing this thing for astronauts using a factory that's not going to be tailor made. So therefore, we do have contrast. And bang, A has to be the answer. It's not going to be D going the same direction. It's not going to be likewise saying the same thing as before. And it's not going to be therefore. It's going to be nevertheless. Oof. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was a good drill. Woo! it with a couple of glitches, but that's why we practice. Even I practice. I take the test and I practice my tail off. All right, ladies and gentlemen, for the rest of the documents, if you need access to these, you can just contact me at my number. It is 786 877 7231. Take care, everybody. Enjoy.